All right, probably the most fun video on all these different strategies. How do we create win-win? How do we be constructive instead of destructive in our conflicts? I gave some tips throughout both the other previous videos, but here is really the focus in how to have more supportive climates and better conflict management. Of course, you can take courses in conflict resolution in business classes and other communication classes at universities, but this is the appetizer platter class, so we get one chapter on conflict. I do have some extra information in this video that I've taken from the interpersonal class because I think it's fabulous that I'm giving you for free, and so we'll get that at the end of this video. So let's get started on creating productive, constructive conflicts. All right, you saw this same slide in our second video, but I wanted to show it again because it's so important. We want to have that supportive climate. If both people are hot and heated and angry, you may need a timeout before you come together because you've got to create a supportive climate. And so we want to show respect. We value the other person. Remember that this is an important relationship. We want to maintain it. And so we cannot maintain it if we're yelling and screaming at people and they're harsh. So we want to have that supportive climate. Some people manage conflicts differently. My best friend, she needs about 15 minutes to time out to process, while her husband likes to take care of it now. And while I appreciate the immediacy and let's resolve the conflict, it is very difficult when one person needs to process. So they've had to figure out their plan ahead of time. Hey, I just need 10 minutes. Give me 10, 15 minutes in the closet and then I will meet with you. But I really need to process and think things through in order for me to be productive. And so you've got to work that out ahead of time in the relationships that you can. So creating that supportive climate, show recognition, value the other person, listen to their thoughts and feelings, right? Use your I language. We want to treat them respectfully and well. All right. Do you remember your group project? The problem-solving steps, right? We need to define the problem. We need to create criteria. We brainstorm solutions, although in your group project, I gave you the solutions. That same strategy of problem solving can be used here with interpersonal conflicts. So, keeping that in mind, one of the things that we would do is we want to identify for myself, what is my problem? What do I need? Right? And really dig deep. What's beneath that iceberg, right? Below the surface. Okay. Also finding out what they need, the other person that's involved, right? And so sometimes that's difficult to figure out. And sometimes that comes out through a conversation. But you do want to try to think through that before you start the conversation with the other person. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I think I need. I'm not sure. What do you think, right? So ask them, which I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry, I do that sometimes. Sometimes you can't actually resolve the conflict there. You're on the way to work. You don't have time. So you sometimes need to set an appointment or a date. When's the best time for you? Don't wait too long, right? But this sometimes allows both people to prepare. You don't feel attacked. You don't feel taken back or surprised. Right? And a good way to do that is start asking questions or making a statement and say, something's really been bothering me lately. Can we talk about it? Or when can we talk about it? Because can we talk about it? It's closed-ended and they'll say no. Hopefully they won't. But sometimes you need to set a time and place. Okay. So when you figure out and think through how you see the problem and what you need, then you want to have a conversation about that, right? And so you need to talk about this is how I see the problem. Here's what I need. You also could let the other person go first as well, but they may not know how to communicate. You have some tools. So use your eye language, be kind, have those confirming, respectful messages, watch your nonverbals. I find I'm really frustrated when this happens. I know you're frustrated as well. I'm sure you have your perspective, and I'd like to hear what your perspective is. Like, I'd like us to work through this together. Remember, you're a team. There is a couple that I do not know personally, but was told from a friend that when they have conflicts, they're a married couple, they put clown noses on because it's hard to get really angry at somebody with a clown nose on. So sometimes because you really want to try to minimize, remember those disconfirming messages, and when we're upset and angry, sometimes that comes out. So how can we maybe add a little humor to lighten the mood? Not make light of the problem, but just the atmosphere to try to create that supportive climate. I thought that was super creative. You might try it, right? But think about their point of view. Ask them, say, I want to understand what you're thinking. How are you feeling? Right? We have to go through that. We want both people to feel satisfied, right? So use your eye language, ask them questions, use your listening skills, paraphrase. You know that phrase, let's just agree to disagree. Well, to me, that seems like we're avoiding the conflict. But you can't possibly agree to disagree until you've expressed yourself and they've expressed their self and the other party understands. Because if you don't understand one another, you're going to continue arguing your side. And so it's really important to be paraphrasing and using your listening skills to show, let me see if I've got this. You're saying this is how you're feeling, this is what you need. Did I get it? And they say, yeah, that's it. Oh, so now we have shared understanding, right? And so now you can possibly choose to agree to disagree, or choose to set another time and place to work out a solution, because creating that win-win takes time and effort. Okay, let's keep going. Sometimes we need to negotiate that solution. So define the problem, right? What's the conflict? Try to brainstorm solutions or ideas of how to fix it. Decide whether it meets that criteria. Always make the criteria first, and then choose a solution, right? Of course, sometimes, just like video games, beta testing, you got to try out the solution. Say, okay, let's try this solution. Let's see this. Let's work on this for the next 2 weeks, and let's see if this works and helps, right? And then if not, then you go back to the drawing board. What are some of your other solutions? So don't throw out your list of solutions, right? But sometimes you need to follow up, test it out, see if it works. If it doesn't, don't blame. Blaming is not helpful, right? Go back to the list and pick, how did you come up with the solution? Maybe let's pick a different solution. What do we need to do differently, right? So sometimes it's not going to happen instantaneously. We're going to have to work through it. We're a team. We want to have a supportive climate. All these things make it easier to work through. I know it's super hard. I get angry and I want to lash out, but instead I tend to just clam up, and I go into that avoiding category. It is hard. Nobody masters this, right? I don't think. But having a plan in place and working towards it, remember to forgive one another. That's part of it as well. That is part of repairing relationships. So both of these chapters, 8 and 9, go hand in hand. All right, here's my bonus material. Love, love, love. We covered this in the interpersonal communication class, and we have an expert, the godfather of interpersonal communication and relationships, managing conflict, is Dr. John Gottman. He is an expert in the area of conflict, specifically within marital relationships. So even though this is sort of in the context of marital relationships, it's still good and could be applied to anything. But it's amazing what this professor can do. And I do have a video clip in that PowerPoint. It's posted separate. Remember, we can't play video clips through the videos. That Dr. John Gottman was interviewed on the Anderson Cooper show, and I have a video clip of him. So he has the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and these are the destructive approaches, right? These are the disconfirming messages that we would be sent. So criticism, attacking their character, defensiveness, which is all about self-protection and retaliation, and the focus is not on the problem, it's on the person, which is not good. Contempt, treating the partner with disrespect or ridicule, that's not good. The eye rolling, don't tell me you've never done that. Sarcasm, don't tell me you've never done that, right? Those are all forms of contempt. And that is actually the single greatest predictor of divorce. Dr. John Gottman can look at any romantic relationship and watch your communication, and if it's a marriage, predict really accurately whether that relationship will survive or not. And then stonewalling is avoiding or shutting down or checking out. And unfortunately, that's one of my things. Sometimes I do that. Okay, so we don't want to inflict shame on the other person. We're not saying you're wrong, you're bad, you're broken. That's all that you language. That's not healthy. That's all disconfirming. So those are the things we want to avoid. Criticism, defensiveness, contempt, stonewalling. Well, what's left for us to do? You don't just get rid of the negative, you have to replace it with something else. So we're going to learn. He has solutions to each of these 4 horsemen. So now let's look at the antidotes. How can we be productive? How could we not be defensive or use contempt? So here are your solutions. They are in the same location as the 4 horsemen on the previous slide. So for example, stonewalling was in the bottom right corner. And so the antidote for stonewalling would be here in the bottom right corner, self-soothing and re-engaging. And so here are his tips. So we have in the upper left corner, make requests. We want to address the behavior without blaming or attacking the person. I know it is so hard. It is so hard, but we want to try to refrain from that. Use those I statements to communicate emotions and needs. Accepting responsibility instead of being defensive. Right? Be responsible for what you have contributed to the problem without retaliation. Focusing on the problem. Don't focus in on defending yourself or attacking your partner. Instead of showing contempt, be appreciative and respectful. Identify and communicate what you value in the other person, even if you disagree. Attempt to understand and validate the other person's experience and their point of view. You can understand how they see it that way. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them. So we want to be kind, appreciative, and respectful. And of course, self-soothe and re-engage. Sometimes you need a timeout. Calmly let the other person know that you're feeling overwhelmed or flooded, or you have a lot of hot emotions running through you and you need to take a defined break, right? Not an open-ended break. I need 10 minutes. Can we talk about this evening? Right? Set that time and date, right? Do something that helps you get grounded, cool off. If you need to go let off steam, hit a punching bag, go for a run. The other person is not a punching bag. But we do that. So we want to redirect that, hit a pillow, right? Do things that help you relieve that stress, get that out, and then re-engage when you're ready to have that civil conversation, to be able to send confirming messages instead of disconfirming, to create that supportive climate. I know this is all super hard. I tend to clam up, right? I tend to withdraw with certain people instead of discussing it. And so I have to have a timeout. right? We're all in this together. We're all trying to work through this. The difference is most people have no training in how to resolve conflict. Now you do. You have lots of tools, strategies. Almost everything in our textbook in communication is applied in our conflict chapter. So it's really a great way to wrap up the semester. Apply all those things that you know. Be the good listener. Ask questions. Paraphrase what you hear. Your goal is to create understanding. How are they feeling? How are they thinking? Show that you are listening. You're in a relationship together. You value that. You want to maintain that. So work through this together. They're not the enemy. Sometimes we need to lighten the mood, right? Be creative there. I have some statistics here that's fascinating, where communication literally makes or break a relationship. And Dr. John Gottman can listen to marital couples in disagreements, and they can predict with 90% accuracy whether it will be a successful relationship or it won't. And if you're having unsuccessful conflicts, then practice what you're learning. Teach the other person, hey, I've learned some of these things in my class, and I think it'll help us communicate better. If we have some strategies in place and tools in place, then it won't be so crazy, right? And so share what you learn. Right now, our world is very heated. We can make change, show respect, teach other people how to communicate, how to agree to disagree. That's after we've communicated and listened and we've had supportive climates and confirming messages. Unfortunately, you're getting all the wrong things right now, right? And so do the opposite. One person can teach another person, and so on and so on. And slowly but surely, we can create more respect and better relationships. Sometimes people have a few questions at the end of conflict discussions, so I have a couple here that are typical questions. If you want to pause and read through that, you can. Like, for example, on when. And a couple more questions about, is it overly rational or is it possible to change others? Which it's not. But through the changes that you make and how you treat other people and respond to other people, once they start having that example, they might soon follow. Share these things, anything you've learned in this class, with other people so that they too can be equipped. Tell them to take these classes. An interpersonal class is a great follow-up class to take. You go into more in depth to a lot of the things we've covered in this class. Right? Be a competent communicator. Be appropriate and effective. Be respectful. Use that I language. Ask good questions. Paraphrase to see if you understand what people are saying. Remain calm. Be respectful. Have a nice, supportive climate. It does make life easier. We minimize conflict. We can do that sometimes through the way we communicate. Our world is very angry right now. It's very divisive. I don't know why people have learned that just because we're different means that we're mean. There's a lot of name calling, and it's a lot of overgeneralizations. I see a lot of fallacies. Don't do that. We are different. We are going to have different ideas, and that's okay. Let's be respectful of one another. Let's listen to one another. We don't have to agree, but we do need to be respectful. You can do this. I know that you're going to have future success. Take your tool belts with you. Pick and choose the tools that you use, and don't give up on them. One tool is not always going to work. Try a different tool next time, right? They're not all the same. But you are equipped. You can be a great communicator. Use your tools. Go forth and communicate.